Are women over 35 cooked?
So you can't say on one hand, single mothers are an issue, and then on the other hand, clown somebody who don't want to be a single mother.
And I really kind of feel some kind of way like you're telling people how to get some you don't actually have.
Paul Pierce would probably be age appropriate for maybe Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. In his eyes, he looks at her and he thinks, oh, she's cooked.
Maria Costello was caught making a statement that she will be proud to carry Devon Franklin kids. And Devon made a statement, wow, I've never had anyone tell me that.
There's a lot of guys who've never heard those words like that. I just hope for her sake that she knows what she's doing.
Carnival has changed their rules on the high seas.
I actually took offense to the fact that most people thought these were anti-Black.
The people who want to freely participate in these things are the ones who are saying this is anti-Black because they believe that's what Black looks like. Welcome to yet another episode of the BLC Pod. I've been practicing since the break. We happen to be back at the BLC. Unfortunately, we ain't got all of our people with us, as you could probably already tell. Our guy Jay, get better, my guy. You know what I'm saying? We're with you in spirit. He's with us in spirit. And apparently Tia didn't get the memo that the vacation, the holiday was last week, but apparently she's keeping the party going and enjoying herself immensely somewhere. That's kind of making us a little jelly. But hey, girl, do your thing. I mean, we just pod. You know what I mean? I get it. Priorities. But before we get into the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. And of course, we got the merch, y'all. You know what I'm saying? That's right. We got some new merch coming to y'all. We got the crew necks. We got the V necks. We got the no necks for people who ain't got no necks. You better check out the merch, man, and stop playing with them. But with that being said, for the people that I do have with me, SNM, would it be in the building? Pew, 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 pew.
So I'm super excited because I did check out the new merch and I got the new merch. I'm waiting for it to come. Can't wait to rock it because as we know, I always hear in womanese. And according to you, Nick, I'll be listening with emotional ears. I tend to disagree, but it's all good because I can't wait to rock that shit. So with that being said, I'm excited to get this show on the road. Got some great topics, and I'm looking forward to dropping some knowledge.
You already know. You heard me. I like how you weaved in the whole, hey, I got to give you a shout out too, because that intro that I did, that was so amazing. I could not have done it without my girl SNM putting it in the notes. You know what I'm saying? Because teamwork makes the dream work. Del, what's happening, my guy?
What's going on? Happy post 4th of July vibes to everybody. We're doing good over here. I'm just a little stressed out. We're doing teenage driving lessons for the summer, so that's what I got going on over here. And if anybody's been keeping up with the news, we got a lot of flooding going on. So pray for Texas. And I'm just ready to get back to work and do all our podcast stuff and do our BLC business. And we've got a lot of topics going on. There's been a lot of things that have popped off in the last week or so. So we got to get to it, man. Let's get to work.
Absolutely. Speaking of getting to work, what's today? July 10th, not 11th, right? I feel like we're in the second half of the year because we are, right? When July 1st came around, I said, you know what, Nick, you got to turn up, right? The first half, I was getting it done on the business side. But guess what, y'all? I went to the gym the other day. That's right. 4th of July, I went to the gym and it's like the second New Year's for me. You dig what I'm saying? So to all the people out there who need a reason to start anew or to add on to what they were already doing, we're in second half of the year. Got a whole rest of the year to turn up and make all of your 2025 dreams come true. So join me, shall you? You heard me. But with that being said, let's talk about it. And also be about it in these conversations. SNM, what are we talking about?
All right. So this is something that's near and dear to everybody here and all those in the creator studio. So apparently YouTube recently just announced that they are tightening their rules on AI content. And so if you're one of those people who use AI to get, your channel started or keep it going, just know that if you're using AI voices, scripts, or visuals, you may not be eligible for monetization. Now, over here at the BLC Pod, we ain't been doing that, so I think we kind of straight. But for those who are doing it, this may be a time to revisit your process here. In the meanwhile, is this a win for authenticity, or is this a biased move to protect some of the major studios? What do you guys think? Like, what's going on with this policy? Is it anti-creator or pro-originality?
So I wanted to tap in real quickly because I did do a little bit of research for like all of 5 minutes while I was on the toilet. And too much information. I'm sorry. This early in the show, I'm like, let me look up this YouTube thing. But no, for real. But no, some clarity here, right? So I forgot, I think it was the creator liaison from YouTube came out and said, listen, y'all, I hear the rumors about the changes that's being made. They already had some of these things in place. What they're talking about is basically enforcing them. And what they're really focused on, according to her, are the channels that aren't really adding any value. So like if your channel has nothing but AI stuff. So a lot of people are doing the faceless videos, for example, right? So if your channel has nothing but faceless videos where it's nothing but AI voiceovers and some, screens or whatever, some B-roll, then yeah, you might be in danger, right? Because to them, especially if it's repetitive, if it's something that is not kind of out there, for them, they want to find people who are bringing value, right? So that doesn't necessarily affect creators who are doing recap videos, right? Because some of the language made it seem like, oh, if you're doing like repetitive content, I think for them, and especially with the rise of AI, they're saying, hey, we know that people are mass producing this content and they're putting it on our platforms, and then they're going to decide how or not to monetize them. Now, I got a problem with that regardless, because at the end of the day, if you allow this content to be on your platform, and if you are able to monetize, then yes, the people who created them should also share in the revenue, especially if they're bringing their viewers at the end of the day. So I don't know if YouTube is going as far as to say, hey, we're turning the monetization off for these. And I think that's what they kind of said too. So that might not be an issue. But if the monetization is on, then that's what's up. But for us, like, I thought about doing content that had a little bit more faceless element to it. Yes, maybe it could even be our voices. And by the way, did you know there's platforms that can take our voices and recreate them into AI voices so that we don't necessarily even have to do it? So how would they even be able to tell if it was me or AI me dropping some gems like I normally do, right? I mean, honestly, if I could scale up by having AI me replicate me, I mean, that's a win-win for everybody, including YouTube. So I get what they're trying to do. The last thing I'll say though too is creators got to be mindful that at the end of the day, these are these companies' platforms, right? And so their interest is to make money and make sure their platform grows and benefits them. And of course, in many cases or some cases, it's aligned with the creator. So what creators have to do is figure out how you can bring your audience or gain your audience or grow your audience on a particular platform, and then off platform if you have to, right? In terms of giving them other places they can reach you. Platforms like Patreon. Nonetheless, though, these are all still platforms, right? And you have a limited amount of control in regards to your content and how it's monetized. So you just got to be able to kind of monetize in a lot of different ways. But I just think that initially people were taking this and running with it. Yes, it's of concern for those who might be in that lane, but for people who are genuinely trying to bring value and have great conversations like here, us at the BLC Pod, and we good. So continue to tap in for that realness. You heard what I'm saying? So Delvin, what you think, man?
Yeah, well, I think we are good because we write our own scripts and we do our own stunts. No AI here. So I'm
Facts.
happy with that. I'm happy with that. Uh, you know, and I did a little bit of the research that you did, similar as well. And on the face of it, it comes across. I'm kind of in the middle because it seems like it's a bit of a little protection racket for original content. And I don't want to use the word racket; it's kind of a loaded term. But if you're getting the eyeballs, whether it's AI generated, if it's getting 1 million, 2 million views, if it's good content, does it's you could even if it's AI, you still have to give it the input, the prompt. So I guess it's still original to a certain degree. And I was wondering, I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you guys do. What are other platforms like Rumble saying about this? I've kind of gone over on TikTok, and there's a lot of AI generated content. I'm not really sure uh, what their policy is on that for monetization. Maybe you guys can educate me on that. But I see both sides of it. But I think the original content, especially if it's really good, it's going to always win out. That's my personal feeling. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts? Educate me a little bit.
So I'm just going to say, as an author, and knowing that there's a lot of AI generated books now currently in the market. So to the point where Amazon, as an example, had to limit how many AI books can be published under one author to 7 a day. So now if you're limiting
Only 7?
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
And so I
They
personally
working. They
I
working.
personally support this because it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy to create original content. It takes a lot of time, effort, and energy to put your thought process out there, knowing that it's going to be judged or whatnot. And without the AI assistance, although I will say that thanks to Nick, I am starting to call chat my bitch because chat GPT be on it. And so, however, I support the changes to and recognize it. And it's actually occurring, to answer your question, it's actually occurring across a lot of platforms where they're trying to monitor AI a little bit more because this has been raised as a concern. And places like the Authors Guild and some other people have already sued for the amount of AI content that has been put out there in the ether, so to speak. So I'm all for this policy change, especially since it was talking about, in this particular case, it was actually really narrow focus. I'm glad Nick pointed that out in regards to whole mass content produced as well as repetitive content. And so they're very precise in the language. And it doesn't even start to July 15th. Oh, wait, we're really close to that. So I'm just going to smile because I'm enjoying the fact that AI will now be moderated, basically. And so kudos, YouTube. Yay!
So I'll say this before we move on, right, about the AI thing, because I feel like I might be the strongest AI advocate here. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens when you fall in love with a chick with 4 letters in her name, right? Who just does everything. You know, Lena, I love you too. But the point, right, 4 letters as well. But the point I'm trying to make is I get, and I think Devin said this too, right? It does require input, right? I don't think that AI is at the point, and maybe it will, right? To the point where it can just do everything. But there's still a need for human creativity, right? There's still a need for the person to use the tools. I tend to look at AI more as a tool, right? And I feel like a lot of us are resistant to using these tools. Like, for example, if you're an author, right? How many people don't write books because they don't have the tools necessary to feel empowered to get their thoughts expressed? So if you have an idea for whatever the book is, right? Hey, work with an AI to develop the structure. Hey, I want to write a book. What's a good structure for my book? How should I lay it out to be successful? Right? Can you help me kind of get my thoughts out there? Right? As you put out there, it gets the input and helps you create. So it can be a part of the creative process, I think, if used in an authentic way. Right? So I get that. And maybe in the future, there will be AI that can just write whole movies and then just put digital characters in them. And now all of a sudden there'll be no humans to be in movies. Right? That could be possible. But will the consumer watch it then? Right? And then does the consumer then, who's like, wait a minute, I can go see this movie for free or for the cheap, right? So I just kind of feel like, yes, there's always going to be a struggle from technology and authenticity. So that's easy for me to say. But I think the challenge also is whether or not it provides value to the consumer. Because honestly, I don't think the consumer cares. You know what I'm saying? Not in that way. They care when they're in danger. But if you're talking about the arts, if you're talking about watching things and consuming content, I don't think the consumer really cares as long as it's good or believable at the end of the day, right? So I just think that if people really care, then they should show up with their pockets or what they choose to support. You know what I'm saying? And maybe then that will help stem the tide. But if you're just talking about letting technology run rampant, it's already a dove. You know what I'm saying? It's already L. You either get with it or get rolled the fuck over at this point. You know what I'm saying? To chat or not to chat. That's the question in 2025. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your take was, or were you any of you guys aware of what Hollywood's view on this? You know, they're kind of YouTube adjacent.
No, SNM said that before when they had the last, what was it, the boycott or whatever. There was a lot of conversations even a few years back then in regards to how AI would be used in the industry, because there's a legitimate fear of what AI can do for real. So I think all industries, especially creative ones, music included, right? There's been a conversation about the industry there where I think it was Drake who used the whole Tupac hologram sound. There's people making fake artists. And so, yeah, bro, it's already permeating. So I get why the humans are scared. And I don't know that you're going to be able to stem that tide. I just think you got to either figure out a way to protect yourself, and you need the consumers to be complicit as well. Because if they're going to support the AI music, then, hey, you can't get mad. Like, you know what I mean? You're going to support AI Drake. But go ahead. Not AI Drake.
AI Drizzy.
Yeah, he might even be allowed on Carnival, honestly. I mean, because his music is like international. It's not just rap.
Yeah.
What you said?
Yeah, we got a little room for him. Yeah, so speaking of Carnival and summertime fun, as you guys may have seen on the interwebs, Carnival has changed their rules on the high seas for your safety and entertainment. And some are arguing that they may be a little anti-Black because they target some of the things that Black people like to do at cookouts and barbecues, but it's being done on cruises. So, you know, some of the rules, and I think there are 7 big ones. So we'll go through them and get you guys' thoughts. There's a team curfew, so no running around under 21 after 1 a.m. So we can decide if that's anti-Black. No more solo sailing if you're under 25. Okay, S&M is doing anti-Black cheers over there. Okay. For you boots on the ground fans, the fans are done. The clacking fans, not the personal, keep yourself cool fans. So no more boots on the ground fans. Reserving chairs at poolside past 40 minutes. They're going to bring your things to guest services. You can't reserve chairs at the pool for 2 or 3 hours. That's done. Behavior consequences, they will fine you $500 and they will put you off the ship at the next port of call for fighting and being disruptive, all those kind of things. And boarding requirements, you've got to have all your ID, your passports, and not your cousin's ID. That stuff's done. So those are the Carnival rule changes effective June 2025. So are they anti-Black? What say you?
So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and jump in because as you saw, the thumbs up, the claps, and all that good stuff represents my viewpoint. And I actually took offense to the fact that most people thought these were anti-Black because why does it automatically equate to Blackness? As a matter of fact, okay, there was one specific rule. That was the line dancing rule. And with the fans, that was anti-Black. But everything else was common sense to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be on a cruise and y'all fighting. Why the hell y'all fighting? Get this fine and get the hell off this ship so I can continue to enjoy my time. Now, I will say and ask this question really quickly. I thought the lounge chair thing was if they were gone for more than 40 minutes, they'll
That's
take
correct,
it.
yes.
Okay, so basically they just take your stuff up and you got to keep it moving. I support that too because why I got to keep walking by the same lounge chair that nobody's sitting on and it's been 2 hours and you still ain't there. Where the hell you at?
Because
in
it's
the
going to come
buffet?
back in 30 minutes.
So bring your ass back. So maybe I want to get this. You know what I'm saying? Stop hogging the lawn chairs. So lounge cheers. Anyways, with that being said, I think this is great. I'm all for it because I don't equate this to anti-Blackness except for the boots on the ground, particularly since the reason why people were saying it was anti-Black was because the whole there was a rumor that they said no hip hop and R&B or rap when we played, and Carnival came back out and said that's not true. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that no fans, and that's a great song. I still need to learn that line dance, as a matter of fact. I ain't gonna lie. So don't hold me there. But otherwise, I'm for this. I'm with it. About effing time. Oh, and the last one about the kids. I thought it said 21 and under. And I support that because between 18 and 21, while you are an adult, apparently those are the ones who's super rowdy on the cruise ship. But at the same time, if they got the money and we can send them to war, maybe we should let them take that cruise too. So that one's a little bit off. And I think it was like they had to have a chaperone maybe if they're 18 to 21, right?
Yeah, somebody over
That's
25.
That's a good idea. What the fuck are 18 to 21 doing on a cruise by themselves? Get the fuck out of here. Grow up first. You can't even rent a car yet, bitch. You can't even drink good. You know what the fuck you doing on that bitch by yourself? We sell liquor here. You know what I'm saying? We'll let your little ass on for the people who buy liquor. But you by yourself, what the fuck is the point? You're
really quick, speaking of liquor, this wasn't on the rules, but I did check with Carnival. There is a 15 drink maximum per day on Carnival. So if you got to have your 16 drinks of Henny, you're out of luck.
Wait, does that include, because normally they do a maximum, they also include like sodas and regular beverages too.
Oh, this is alcohol.
Okay.
Alcoholic beverages. Yeah.
You drinking more than 15, you better take your ass to Alcoholics Anonymous anyways.
Well, if you're on vacation, judgy person, calm down. You got a whole day.
Nick feels attacked.
You got a whole day. Well, first of all, I don't do cruises, but for the people who do, or who just vacation, if you chilling a whole day, you got 24 hours to just be chilling. Oh, you better stop playing. 15. I mean, but it's not a hill that I'm willing to die on. Now, what I loved about this, right, because it causes me to think a little bit, like where would Black people think this is anti-Black. So at first I was like, okay, was there like a big incident that happened on Carnival? And then like somehow these rules were instituted and then people say, oh, that's anti-Black. Because then that would make sense to me a little bit, right? Because you're like, oh, in response to a thing that happened that included a bunch of Black people, then hey, this is anti-Black. So I think I was trying to figure out if that was it. Because if that was not it, right, what it told me was that Black people was telling on themselves. Black people was telling on Black people, right? Because S&M, I feel you, right? For those of us Blacks who don't think this represents us Blacks, right? There are a segment of whites, but also Blacks who think this is us. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about the drama that everybody loves for the first few seasons. I'm talking about the fact that when it comes to like disorderly conduct, right? You know what I'm saying? Loud and lascivious behavior in public. You know what I'm saying? Why must we do dances where we're scrubbing the ground with our vaginas? But my point is that the people who want to freely participate in these things are the ones who are saying this is anti-Black because they believe that's what Black looks like. We got to be honest, y'all, because this was a great situation for me. Because at first, when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, are they being anti-Black? We'd be so quick to want to point to corporate motherfuckers, but they're being anti-Black. Not that some aren't, but I'm saying in this case, we ran to it. I'm like, oh shit, what'd they say? And I looked at the rules and I'm like, this is it. Not the barbecue place here in Atlanta, but the point I'm trying to make here, right? That's like holler at us. We can do some promo on the show. But the point I'm trying to, not that barbecue is a Black thing, right? Stop it. But the point I'm trying to make, right, is that sometimes we have to know how to act in public. You know, and it's a damn shame that when people put out rules, and by the way, from what I read, these rules kind of already existed for the most part. Maybe there's some modification a little bit, but the truth is they got to do what's best for business. You know what I'm saying? People don't want to spend all their money to go on a fucking boat for hours upon hours and deal with y'all niggas who don't know how to fucking act. You know what I'm saying? And my niggas, I mean just people in general, but since we're talking about Black people, what the fuck you mean if you'll leave the lawn chair for 40 fucking minutes? You know what I'm saying? There's but so many of them. You know what I'm saying? You just go chill, and we supposed to just what? Just wait? You selfish motherfucker. That's not a Black thing, but if you want to make it a Black thing, that tells me that Black people are selfish as fuck. We the type of niggas who witness some shit like that, come back in the 45th minute and have an attitude that somebody's sitting there. Like, bitch, maybe that's how the fight started. But my right, it's all starting to head out. The nigga who had 16 drinks came back to the chair and he left for 43 minutes and was mad somebody was sitting there after he came back from doing the little line dance with an 18-year-old who was there by themselves, and shit got wild. It all makes sense. So that's why I'm not tripping. Thank you, Black people, at least some of y'all Black people, for telling on yourselves, because that's how you perceive Blackness. But for some of us, whether you want to call it elitism or just having some goddamn sense, you know what I'm saying? It's okay to go on vacation and not get into fights and get fucking drunk as fuck. You know what I'm saying? And be disrespectful and rude to the other people who are just trying to have a fucking vacation like you. You know what I'm saying? That's one Black person to the other. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I've been kind of monitoring this, on social media and kind of getting the pulse of the Black folks. And at first I thought it was split, but it seemed like there are more Black people who are like, this is great. I don't want to spend my hard-earned money going on vacation and dealing with fighting and all other kinds of foolishness, people sneaking alcohol and drugs on it. But they're like, I've worked too hard. I don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. So kudos to the hardworking Black people for speaking up and not being defined by just not knowing how to act in public and degeneracy. Give yourself a round of applause.
I was going to say the fact that you thought it was Blackness or this was related to Blackness meant you yourself was anti-Black. Because why you run around there promoting those stereotypes of Blackness? Like, stop it. Stop it. But, speaking of anti-Black, but is it really anti-Black? I don't know. The jury is kind of still out on that, especially when it comes to spending vacation money. Essence Festival. So Essence Festival took a hit this year, and I mean a major hit. And so for those who don't know the background, Essence Festival was this festival that was to come together to celebrate Black Americans, and it was usually like something where a girls trip. As a matter of fact, the movie Girls Trip was actually about Essence Festival, and that's how popular Essence Festival is, and was. However, it appears times are changing and folks express mad dissatisfaction from this year's Essen Festival. Now, it could be because Target was there as one of the vendors, and as you know, many folks are still boycotting Target, so why the hell was you at Essen Festival? Or it could be the fact that local vendors were not really invited this year because it seemed to be more corporate. Or it could have been the fact that it was apparently a West African vibe versus a Black American vibe. I'm not quite sure, but the question on the floor today is Essen Festival still the essence of Black culture?
My wife just got back from Essence Festival. She had a great time. So her and I talked about it. I wanted to get her perspective. She said she didn't really see like an overt amount of, I guess, African representation. She said you could see it around, but it didn't stop the vibes. She said everybody had a great time. It was no foolishness. Everybody was having just really good Black excellence, Black fun. Of course, Erykah Badu did not start on time, if that's what you were looking forward to. But she said it was great, and attendance could be down for a lot of different reasons, SM, as you pointed out. But she said it was still a great experience, and it may just be an internet talking point. So that was my first-hand account from somebody who was there.
Hold on. Internet talking point, right? Okay. So I guess people saw the video where Lauryn Hill was performing to a crowd of 300 people in almost an empty place. She went on like about 2 hours after she was supposed to. Stephanie Mills came out with a letter also just, I guess, not happy with the execution of the events. People come for the stars. These are older folks too. What the fuck am I doing up at 3:00 in the morning? So we just, listen, I'm sure your wife had a great time, because honestly, people who are good natured and good spirited, they're going to have a good time regardless of where they go, right? Especially if they're not really aware of everything going on. Now, I don't know if she's been multiple years to where she can say the attendance was down, but it sounded like you intimated that because there could be a lot of reasons why they were down. But the conversation, I think, goes deeper than, festivals are down overall, right? Because it wasn't about Africans being there. It's not like you're going, there goes some Nigerians right there. Like sometimes you could tell, I guess, right? But it's not like are the Africans there? Now, that may be where the problem lies, I think, from an attendance standpoint, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But there's a lot of layers in terms of, SNM mentioned the Target thing. Honestly, I don't think Target had much to do with it. Niggas still going to Target. I mean, I get that maybe they're saying there's a drop in numbers, I guess, and there people are claiming that. But honestly, I just don't know too many people who are necessarily boycotting Target. And then on top of that, where else are y'all going? Because I think the niggas who go to Target are not going to go to Walmart. But I guess, hey, you guys will sacrifice and take one for the team. I hear you. Sell me that. I'll buy it, maybe, right? So I don't think the Target thing was a big issue. I do think the local people part was a problem, because you always want to get local support just because it can kind of provide a foundation of attendance and people who are invested in your event, right? You got vendors and people who are coming out to the event. You may have people who got tickets or whatever, however way you do it, but you kind of have that local support. And I think you then bring out more of a local audience. I think they missed on that. I think they missed digitally in terms of whether or not they invested in getting streamers or any podcasters or having like a presence. Honestly, that shit came up really quickly. It came and went without most people not talking about it. In fact, what people are talking about now is the most I think we've heard about Essence Festivals this entire fucking year. And that says a lot, right? And I didn't even get to the woman who is running it right now. And I'm sorry if her name escapes me, but the other point that SNM was speaking to, and you mentioned the whole Africans thing, from what I understood, right, the idea was maybe for it to be more global, celebrating Black excellence, right, in a global kind of way. And I do think that is a good idea, right, because I do think there needs to be more unity, et cetera, et cetera. But I honestly do wonder if when you focus from the organizational level and the channels that you choose to use to promote this event, right, is going to be different. So whereas you might have gone traditionally with Black outlets or, traditional mediums or whatever that you would have used in the past, but if you're trying to reach a global audience, maybe now you're reaching out to other people that maybe we as people in America have not heard of. Now, where it goes back to what I was saying before about the attendance is that if you made that investment to get those people to come out and those people do not come out and support, then you unfortunately fail because you kind of use your funds to kind of broaden your audience, and you thought you had the core audience there, and apparently they're like, nah, you really don't. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, you're not really running a great operation here because events are not starting on time. People come to see these people, and to wait 2 hours to see them is not a great experience, right? So I think it was a culmination of a lot of these things. It's just fascinating to me, though, the idea of the ADOS and the FB, that whole conversation, because I just don't know. I feel like this would be the first time we were seeing the tension maybe show itself in a tangible way, if that's what happened, right? If all the conversations that we heard on the internet or in whatever, if this was, here's a person who maybe was not rooted in the African-American culture and decided to prematurely try to expand, and there could have been good intention there, but unfortunately it's just bad outcome. And now we're looking at that outcome and we have questions. And so I just think there's a lot of work to be done internally to figure out the direction of Essence Festival moving forward, Essence Fest, because to your point, Delvin, there are a lot of changing macroeconomic things happening in the space. So people may not have as much disposable income and they may have more options, right? And who knows, maybe there would be like an AI festival they could attend and not have to spend anything anyway, right? So it's like, come on, humans, get your shit together. You dig what I'm saying? But I'm hoping that that's just more internet fodder. I hope that we as Black people recognize, especially here in America, that it's more important for us to unite with others than divide from others. I do get that there are real issues that need to be talked about, but I just feel like sometimes maybe the minor things get in the way of us doing major things. And I get the vision if she wants to take it there, but you also got to continue to invest in the people who got you there. You can't decide to just pivot over here and forget the people who got you there, right? So I think that's where, from the local level, right? If you're trying to go international, you damn sure got to start with taking care of local. Right. And so I think that's where maybe at the end of the day, where some of this kind of failed in terms of the leadership and how they chose to approach whatever edict they had to kind of broaden the scope of excellence and Black excellence internationally.
So you definitely hit it on the head in regards to the local representation and the fact that there weren't that many vendors that were of the locality. But I think the primary issue that most folks across the internet focused on, besides, yes, first of all, Lauryn Hill's late no matter where she's at. Erykah Badu,
she was on time, I heard.
All those folks.
I heard she was on time this time.
Right, she was
actually, I heard she was on time, and it was like they were late. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't even her fault this time.
Oh my God.
It wasn't her fault. It was the event organizer's fault.
Think about that for a second.
That is shocking because I've been to one of her concerts and I was pissed. And they told me she was there so she was only an hour late. The fact that she was only an hour late caused me some consternation. And they was like, no, that's good. She's only an hour late. So to hear that it was the organizers, that's even worse. And so it's like, hey, if you're supposed to be the brand and this is the brand, aka Essence Festival, then stand on the brand and stop doing what we call stereotypically in a former pod, Black people shit when it comes to business running. But in this case, because it wasn't a Black people shit as an FBA, if you want to go that way. But which brings me to my next point is that a lot of people felt like this was an identity crisis and a cultural shift. They felt that the rebranding of the festival as a festival of culture under this new ownership, and just as a FYI, I think she's Nigerian. And so
I thought she was Kenyan.
She might have been. Maybe she could have been Liberian.
Let's get her name. Can we get her name just to be fair to the sister?
Yeah, you're right. We should do that. Let me see.
I think Delvin will look it up as our research analyst.
Right?
Yeah. I want to say she's Liberian.
Yeah, I was going to say she might have been Liberian.
Oh, we got Nigeria. We're doing great, guys. Why don't we stop? Why don't we stop throwing shit out there?
Hey, this is good fodder here. Anyway.
Lord have mercy.
But anyways, the point, you were right while he looks up the name, that she was trying to bring a broader global Black identity into this festival. And that included highlighting some of the other African, particularly West African elements. And some folks felt that it was at the expense of the Black American culture because that's where the roots are. And so folks was like that she failed to pay homage to the roots itself. And that caused some upset. Folks were upset about that. And so another thing that they really pinged on was the fact that attendance was definitely lower and engagement was lower. They're like the energy was not the same as it usually is. They felt that the energy may have been low simply because of the cultural shift. So there's been some calls to reclaim it. They're like, hey, we need to boycott and reclaim Essence Festival. But I don't know exactly what that would actually accomplish and what that would do and why it would be a full out boycott of Essence Festival. As a matter of fact, I think that would do more harm than good because you're harming the very people who you're claiming we're supposed to be paying homage to, which is Black Americans. And if we're looking at the larger picture of being global, because we can't continue to exist in this insular vacuum, then what are we doing? Like, where are we going with this? What's the direction for that? And so I think that's another thing. The operational disappointments that you talked about, Nic, that's crazy though. that it was the organization who was behind schedule and whatnot. I think that's also a big part of it was the persistent scheduling delays, the production issues, and then compounded with the cultural misalignment. I think that all highlighted everything that everybody had a problem with in the first place. But let's not pretend that this festival has been going down for some time. Let's not pretend that it wasn't slightly on the decline for other reasons that may be outside of the fact that this now has new ownership, you know? I would just say this. I'll just land here. I think that what was intended to be a more inclusive global celebration of Black culture and Black excellence and so forth lost the essence simply because it abandoned some of the roots in the Black American female empowerment and the local community heritage, the heritage being New Orleans and whatnot. And so that kind of resulted in disillusionment. It resulted in declining turnout and a call to shift back to the roots and its original core. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we're missing something when we decide if we can't evolve and be more inclusive about certain things. It's not like we're saying, hey, let's open it up to everybody in regards to the culture itself. But I think we're...
My name's Baraku Tubman Zawalo.
Who is that? I thought it was Caroline Wagner. We're talking about the person who was over the. What we talk? We are horrible.
Rkue Tubman Zawalo.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
So I'm reading it right here. Caroline A. Wagner is the president and chief executive officer of Essence Ventures, a parent company of Essence Magazine and organization. I believe she was the one that's being called out in terms of the direction they're going in. So we'll come back to that. If we messed it up,
it's the owner. I think she sold it to this person who Devon was speaking of.
Oh, okay.
All right. The chief global strategist for Essence Ventures, chief community officer at Essence Ventures. So that maybe you're right. Maybe the lady I'm pulling.
Essence Ventures, 2 hours ago, Essence Ventures CEO Caroline Wagner responds amid online scrutiny. It was in the link. The only thing I really needed was like where she was from. But okay, so we really, so we're the problem. We're part of the problem. Well, they are part of the problem. I'm not gonna claim that, right? Let's be clear, because y'all was mentioning a bunch of different shit. Y'all could just let me down the hill of King. No, it's Liberia, it's Nigeria. I'm like, whoa. We started throwing out a bunch of names out there, and that's part of the problem. Right? If her job was to grow the shit, okay, the only way to grow is internationally. So I'm gonna shoot her some fucking bell real quick, okay? Because the fact of the matter is that like people love fucking Afro beats. Like it's one of the most like dominating culture music. So like what we gonna accept or not accept is part of the fucking culture. You watch BT Awards, are them niggas not there? Is Tyler not still making Water, whatever fucking song she had? So I get it. Her misstep was that she did not invest equally or at least enough, I think, locally. And by locally, I mean both New Orleans and in terms of the culture, right? The culture here. And how you find culture is through podcasts, for example. There are certain podcasters who are tapped into culture that help bring culture. Streamers are a big thing now. Even the NBA is getting into bed with some of the younger streamers. In fact, Kai Cenat, one of the youngest guys out there in the streaming world, is killing it. He's on Time Magazine because a lot of things are moving and skewing in certain different directions. So if you don't make the investments in those areas, you didn't see anybody for real, right? There wasn't those traditional tie-ins. And also, let's be honest, after Trump got into office, maybe there was less corporate money to go around too at the same time. So I get that we want to point at the sister. I get that, but her mandate was growth. So I understand that. But I think where she probably fell short was whether or not they were able to raise the money and the funds and have those necessary to be able to invest in those multiple areas. And sometimes a lot of entrepreneurs and business people make the mistake of trying to hit everybody, right? So if you had to make the tough call in terms of, hey, man, we don't got the funds this year. We already know that we kind of have to limit how front-facing Target is given where it lands with our community, then maybe you kind of have to decide to maybe wait another year before you expand in the way that you might have intended to before. Right? But that's not what happened. And so hopefully they'll learn from this and be able to grow from this. And we wish them well. You dig what I'm saying? But it was not a good look. And not even so much just simply because of just the missteps or what we're talking or what people's experience was, but rather the fact that this is what we're talking about afterwards, right? That's what I think ends up showing you how bad of a misstep this was this entire time. But anything else before we move on? Because, I mean, speaking of events that women of a certain age flock to, right? That's what we were just talking about. I feel like we would see Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. Was she there this year? I'm surprised if she wasn't there. Who else was probably, did they have Sarah Fontenot or whatever her name is, right? Was she there? I mean, if they did not, that's what I'm talking about, right? These are women who are part of the lexicon, the culture. I would think that they're also the age range, the target demo. We all saw Girls Trip, right? But that's not what this conversation is about, though, right? This conversation is about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, and by extension, Sarah Fontenot, I think hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right, is, are women cooked, baked, flambéed, you know what I'm saying? Baked even, right? That's after 35. Cheyenne Bryant, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, was, I think, on The Truth After Dark with Paul Pierce. I mean, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, Paul will get the truth. You feel me? I mean, that's a little bit of shade. But anyway, she was on the pod, and I guess Paul was like, hey, man, women after 35 are kind of cooked. You dig what I'm saying? And so I think she kind of was like telling him the reasons why that's not true. I found it interesting, though, in part of the conversation, she talked about how she was ready for a baby at 42 and how that would change how she approaches relationships versus when she was in her 30s and 20s. Ironically, I think Paul did get some of the truth out of her. And I don't know if she was aware of how that came across, but nonetheless, the conversation being, are women over 35 cooked? But let me pause right there, because it's not just women, period. Because the problem that I have, right, is, are women who would seem like they should not be single at 35 and never been married at 35 and never had a kid at 35 but still want these things, right? I think, let's be precise. Are those women after 35 cooked, right? Because let's be honest, a lot of us would be like, well, why are these women saying? Listen, before I even get into my riff about this, what are y'all? Because I was about to go. I was about to introduce it and then take off. So let me reel it in. So what are you guys' thoughts in regards to the idea that a woman who seemingly has it all and represents a woman who should have everything she wants, but is still single, childless, and never been married at the age of 35, right? Proposals notwithstanding. What are y'all thoughts about that? Are women over 35 cooked like goose or geese if they're not? What are y'all thoughts?
Go ahead, SNM. You want to jump in there? You got a nod of disapproval.
I do have a nod of disapproval because first I'm going to say, so here's the problem. So if a woman chose marriage before carriage and they chose to have career before marriage, before carriage, there's a problem. So we're constantly telling women to close their legs and wait until they're married and whatnot. And if she's not ready to get married until she's after 35, then why the hell does it matter if she wasn't married before 35? Why does it matter that she waited to have a child until after she was 35 if our issues is with the so-called baby mamas and the single mothers of the world? If we're constantly, so you can't say on one hand, single mothers are an issue, and then on the other hand, clown somebody who don't want to be a single mother or have a baby outside of marriage and whatnot. So I call bullshit on all of this because at the end of the day, I feel like this whole ideal, and I'm going to go broad a little bit, even though I know you went very specific, which is why I addressed that first. This whole ideal is so fucking dusty and tired that women are done after 35, especially since the only thing that seems to be cooked to me is y'all delusion, not y'all right here, you two. Well, maybe we'll see what y'all say. But the delusion that women are cooked just because they're reached this age. And so I personally think this is because men tend to reach that their peak at 19 and think because they got a beard and a podcast, no shade, Devon, that make them philosophers or old ass men that may have something going for them. And now after running through age appropriate women, all of a sudden they're leaving heartbreak and baby mamas around, want to turn around and say, well, women are cooked if they're over the age of 35. Nah, you cooked. That's what the problem is because you cook. There's a lot of projection in this. Now, what I will say, because I already know what y'all going to talk about, you're going to talk about at least biologically. Well, you know what? It turns out fertility is not something that's actually an issue for women over 35. Now, if she hitting 50, it might be a little issue there. But thanks to modern medication, she can still have a kid. Now, is the best time to have a kid? Probably not. So you may want to think about that. But at the end of the day, you're not shopping for cattle. Women over 35 can still crank out babies. I know folks in their 42s cranking out babies if that's what the problem is. And I think not every woman wants to be a starter kit anyways. That's the husband and the family at before 35. There's some people who value their careers first. There are some people who value their education first. There are some people who want to be whole, able-bodied adults before they enter marriage with another whole, able-bodied adult. And I'm going to land there because I feel like if I keep going, I'm going to give away some of my nuggets. So let me get y'all feedback. And Devin, once again, no shade because I know you on a podcast with the beard. So I just want to make sure you knew it wasn't that
beard
tea.
slander is amazing. Jeez, I put my good lace front on too. That's crazy. Cheyenne Bryant is. I watched the podcast. I watched the entire Paul Pierce podcast. I took notes. I read the transcript, and he did the Lord's work. Cheyenne Bryant is full of shit. And I'm going to tell you why. She brought this completely on herself. She is 42. God bless her. Now, what's actually happening, and she admitted Paul Pierce got this out of her. She's been in a 5-year situationship with a guy 9 years her junior. And he asked her, are you, so on top of all that, he asked her, are you dating? She said, I have companions with an S. So the guy she's in a situationship, he wants a commitment with her. She admitted that. Got to go read the transcript. She's telling him, no, I don't want a commitment with you right now. You got some growth to do or some other, nebulous pseudo, psychobabble. So she's the one stringing him along. And if she wants to be outside, that's cool. But her complaining that she's not getting this thing that she says she wants, I'm like, look, if you want to be outside, that's cool. Just do that. Paul Pierce didn't let her gaslight him. He had to keep walking her to it, but he got it out of her, and now the shit's out there. And I really kind of feel some kind of way like you're telling people how to get some shit you don't actually have or know how to get, and maybe you just don't want it. Because let's think about it like this. And this is why I can't take it seriously. When Kevin Samuels was still alive, everybody was like, oh, well, you're not married. How are you giving relationship advice? You don't have a wife. You're not in a relationship. Well, if we got to disqualify what Kevin Samuels said, by that standard, we got to disqualify Cheyenne Bryant too. She got to get up out the chat. So I can't take it seriously. I'm sorry.
But Delvin, did you answer the question? Now I feel you on that, but I want to see your answer to, are women over 35 cooked? I mean, Cheyenne
I don't think
42.
So. I don't think so. Do I think they have the same options at 25? No, but I don't think they're cooked.
You don't think they're cooked?
No.
Gotcha. Okay. So do you think that women who have, who present,
who have it all, yes.
Do you think those women are over 35 are cooked?
I think they're in a tough situation because I think women can have, because the argument is like, can women have it all? Yes, you can't have it all at once. And you're running out of time because a lot, again, using Cheyenne Bryant as an example, a lot of the men that she wants, she's literally in the room with these men. Why are they not picking you? Or why did they pick you 5 years? That's the $1 million question.
And thank you for bringing it to where I needed it to be. Pause if necessary. Because here's the thing, right? Cooked is subjective, right? I mean, cooked, the word in and of itself can have multiple meanings and variations of a meaning, right? And then the person applying it, right? So for example, Paul Pierce would probably be age appropriate for maybe Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, or maybe a little bit older, but he's not that much older. Like maybe an older gentleman. I think she would probably go for a nigga his, age and wealth by, for all intents and purposes. But in his eyes, he looks at her and he thinks, oh, she's cooked, right? She's cooked. So
he's 47.
So is it possible, Paul Pierce is 47, right?
He's 47.
Paul Pierce is only 47? God damn, what did I do with my life? But
right? No, like he Asian though.
No, because I thought he was
like
way
53.
older.
I thought he was like 53.
Yeah, but you know what? Perfect, right?
Asian so like milk.
That actually proves my point, right? So if she's 42, 47, that's right in the nice little breadbasket of age difference, and he has the wealth, right? And so from his perspective, when he says those women are cooked, he's really talking about her. Right? But not to her face for real. And by cooked, he means that, yes, I will engage with you for sexual activity and coitus, but for what you want, you're cooked, right? Delvin was saying it nicely, right? Well, she can't have the same expectations, but she still does, right? And if she does, for the guy that she wants to fulfill those expectations, I think the chances are pretty high that to that guy, she's cooked. And does that mean she can't find a couple of guys out there who might fit the profile, who might say, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and wife you. Yeah, that's possible. But let me tell you the other reason I think she specifically is cooked is because the jig is up. Right? When I first saw her, I think she came across a certain type of way. She was an attractive woman. I'm not going to take that away from her. She's attractive. She's very smart, very articulate. But the more I see her, the less of a doctor I see, and the more I see a woman who is trying to relive her hot girl years right in front of us with a little bit more sophistication and class, right? More thirst traps, right? More revealing of some truth that Delvin just told us, right? For the woman who's out here giving this kind of conversation about being healthy, she has a situationship with the nigga who wants to be with her. She's only really keeping the nigga around, right? In case she can't probably find the other nigga that she really wants because her clock is ticking, right? As part of that conversation, she said, hey, I'm 42. Right? And I'm ready to have this baby. She was low-key doing a commercial, right? I feel like there was a certain point that when I saw her, every time I saw her publicly, I felt like she was advertising, I want a man, right? It was giving a little thirsty a little bit, right? To a certain extent. And a woman that smart, that capable, and that attractive should not be behaving this way unless she too understands that the heat is rising, that she may be leaning towards the cooked side of the rotisserie. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to be honest. The same way that Black people tell on themselves with the whole Carnival thing, I think a lot of these women tell on themselves. And then what they do is they craft a boogeyman narrative to explain why they never got or couldn't get what they say they want. And Delvin, I'm telling you, they say they want these things. They want a man. They want a husband, right? To SNM's point, they want a baby. And I get it, SNM like holding off and all that, but I'm sorry, it's irresponsible if you want a child, if you ever want a child as a woman in your life, to sit there and wait till 35 to start thinking about settling down, finding a husband and having a child. That's ridiculous. I'm not saying you gotta want that. I'm saying if you ever in your life like considering it, then wouldn't you plan accordingly? What the fuck? That don't make no sense. And so now at 42, you're willing to bend. Because that's the other thing she said in the conversation. She's like, I would have that relationship with that man and I would do everything to stay with him. Things that I wouldn't necessarily do in my 30s and 20s. But now, after we have this child, we're gonna make a pact. It doesn't matter. She basically was telling niggas, hey man, you give me a baby, it's up. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Right? That's the sound of a woman who's walking towards the oven, even if she's not fully cooked yet. Right? So, yes. And furthermore, we got to be honest. If these women said they did not want those things, all of us could understand. But you'd have to admit there's some level of curiosity as to why a woman who presents to seem to be everything a man could want. I think we'd be lying if there wasn't a certain level of curiosity, right? Sarah Fontenot, hopefully I pronounced her name right, beautiful influencer. She's smart, seems to have a lot going for herself, right? But she's 37. So just going back to this whole are you cooked thing, do I think women in general are cooked? No. Because I think a lot of women are open to more things than they say they are open to, right? I wouldn't do it. Yeah, you lying, right? So a lot of everyday women who don't see themselves as being like these top notch, whatever, they're open to it. So I don't think those women are cooked simply because they're willing to let more people enter their restaurant, if you understand. Maybe that analogy made sense. But these women who seem to only cater to a certain audience, right? I'm talking about those women. That's why I started off by saying I want to focus on them because I think there are guys of their ilk who are passing them over for a reason. It doesn't make any sense to any logical thinking person, at least unless there was something else wrong. And it wasn't until I saw Shorty on the Ace podcast, because he's still doing this thing. Was it Ace Metaphor? Is that his name? That's right. Yeah. He's still doing this thing. And Shorty was on there. She was presented with this thing, this typical scenario. A man has everything you need, right? But he's lacking in the money part, but he still makes enough money to live a comfortable life. And she's like, no, I couldn't do it. And she was like going through the machinations. And right there, it hit me. She has even a more specific target of the type of nigga that she wants. So when you talk about subjectivity, the question for her would become, do the niggas that she specifically want think she's viable? And so far, the answer is no. And so far, that would mean to them, maybe she's cooked. Now, if she's willing to open up her preferences, then maybe she's not. But we got to be honest. You know what I'm saying? I think that's how women over 35 get cooked. They still operate in a space like they still moving like they're 25. Sorry, sis, you're not. Like Delvin said. You dig what I'm saying? I think for those women, they are cooked. Flambéed. That's why, what's the version of cooking that takes a long time? You know what I'm saying? Like overtime. It's like a flash fry. It's like because what happens is y'all be the last ones to know, right? You've been in the oven all this time. and now you're dry. You know what I'm saying? There's no more moisture in there, right? And you're wondering what happened. Y'all be the last to know. That's the type of cooks y'all are. And see, go ahead.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and interrupt. I'm sorry, Devin. Can I just jump in for one small portion? First, I just want to remind folks, don't get punked into having kids before you're 35 if you're not ready. There are things called surrogacy if you have the money. There's also frozen eggs if you have the money. And even if you don't have the money, as long as you kicking it and you want to have a baby, you'll most likely have that baby. Don't get punked into having that baby before
And
you're
risk your
ready.
health. Go ahead.
So, so with that being said, go ahead. I just want to interject that, and then I'm going to say something else. Go ahead, Devin.
Well, here's where you went wrong, and this is to Nic's point, which is the same point I'm making. For the men for the Cheyenne Bryant of the world, I mean, we could say Paul Pierce is one of her peers. She's in his social circle, sphere of influence. For the Paul Pierces of the world, with a guy who's wealthy, competent, accomplished in his field, I can just go get the 27-year-old version of Cheyenne Bryant and just cut the whole we just skip past all of this. Why shouldn't he do that?
Okay, so
that's the question.
I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple things, and even something you didn't even ask.
Why shouldn't he get two of them?
So he can do that. He can go get the 25-year version of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant because he can afford to get that 25-year-old version of the Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. And so this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, and I'm going to, even though I know we're targeting this one specific, I'm going to go ahead and broaden out one more time and just say this. So when people talk about cooked, I want to say that she's not cooked. She's just seasoned. And that seasoned is the part that some men are afraid of. They're afraid that she now has depth, clarity, and standards. And that bothers them. They're not ready for that. It scares some folks, not all, but it does scare some men. And that's why they're cool with situationships, which is ironic that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is in a situationship.
I'm not surprised at all.
And so, but with that being said, a lot of times a woman over 35 is also confident and she's not begging to be accepted, but maybe some are now that I think about it, because there's a lot of pick-me's, supposedly, I'm going to put quotation marks on that, out there. But oftentimes they just choose themselves, right? And I think that also upsets some men because she's not pressed. Dr. Bryant don't sound like she's pressed for, even though she did talk about having a baby.
You didn't watch the episode. You did not watch the episode.
No.
When it came to the baby part.
Sound like she's pressed if she already in a situationship for what you say, 9 years?
No, 5 years.
The guy is pressed if she wants a baby this year, SNM.
Well, okay, no, she's pressed for the baby,
and
but she's not pressed for.
That's cap.
I'm just saying.
You think she's gonna? You think she's gonna be a baby mama?
Situationship shit.
You think right now with her perception and all that, you think she's gonna be a baby mama? So if she's talking about
the marriage,
so if she's talking about having a baby right now, and she want to be married before then, and how is she not pressed for a relationship then?
What I'm saying is, you asked why she doesn't have it before, why now? Like women over 35, I'm answering the broader question is because they weren't pressed. That's why people like Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was in a situationship for 5 years until she became pressed, right? Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't aware that she was in a situationship for 5 years. And I'm laughing because it does seem odd that she's giving advice and she herself have not followed her own advice to a certain extent. And so that's kind of ironic to me. However, at the end of the day, I think a lot of times men, when they say women are cooked, it's simply because they don't like the fact that they don't tolerate as much bullshit as they used to tolerate. And these are the same men who help contribute to that bullshit track record that some other women may have experienced. And so I just find it ironic that we're always talking about women being cooked when in reality, they're not cooked. They're just seasoned.
I mean, go ahead, Delvin.
Here's why we can't say she's cooked because of stuff guys doing. By her own admission, she ended 2 engagements and engaged in a 5-year situationship.
Oh, I can't take her seriously.
That's her fault. Go ahead, Nick. I just had to get that out. That was on my screen.
No, I'm agreeing with you with her because I didn't know she was in a situationship. First of all, that automatically was like, oh.
I think the inclination for women hearing this whole conversation about being cooked over 35, right? I think 35, interestingly, is enough. At that point, you do become higher risk when it comes to pregnancy. That's something that you just can't really avoid. And I'm always going to lean on, if a young woman is watching this show She has to ask herself what she wants for her future in her life. Asking young people to be a little bit more intentional about what they want for their future is not a bad thing. So if you're a young lady out there, yes, you want to prioritize your career. It doesn't mean you have to do so at the exclusion of finding a partner, right? You don't have to go ahead and get married and have a baby the next year. You can wait and do that. You can build a partnership. I think a lot of younger people are doing that. So I don't understand why we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. That's an indictment, I think, if women have to say, oh, I got to do this first, I got to do that first. No, you don't necessarily have to do it at the exclusion of the other, right? There's a lot of people who do that. So this idea that, oh, because I put my career first, well, you clearly were not thinking about your life in full, because come on, man, you mean to tell me Dr. Cheyenne Bryant just woke up yesterday, post 40, decided, oh, I just want to have a baby? No, she long-term had probably wanted to have a baby. So let's be clear. When I think guys are talking about who are cooked, they're talking about women who I think in this context, they might say she's cooked, even if he's not cooked for me, I think she's cooked for the nigga she wants. I think that's what a lot of people are saying, right? Just to be honest, right? And so, for example, if I wanted to still date young girls, that might be done for me because I'm an older guy. So maybe to those young ladies, I'm cooked. That's okay. Right? Everybody's going to have their audience. The problem becomes when I feel entitled to have to be accepted by a particular group and then choose not to take the signs or the lack of interest, right? Or the lack of getting what I want to, maybe cause me to pivot a little bit. So something wrong with it's only wrong when we just intimate that might be the case for women who have a particular taste. You dig what I'm saying? And it still comes, let me ask you a question, SNM. You mean to tell me, like, for example, if you see a guy and he's 37, 38, 39, good looking brother, he has his life together, everything. He's not even a player that you know of, right? But he's never been married. You know what I'm saying? Don't have any kids, but he claims he wants that. You mean to tell me that people would either question his intention for real? If he real for real, what's wrong with him? Is he gay? Like, that wouldn't be a thing. So when we see some of these women who people would say, yo, shorty, I think you check a lot of boxes. You say you want a thing. And then all of a sudden, we got to be crazy to be wondering why hasn't she found the thing that she says she wants when she clearly has the mental capacity, the emotional intelligence, the looks, the femininity. She's probably jumping off the dresser, get all these boxes checked. Come on, man. There is a such thing as things being too good to be true. I'll give you another example that you probably won't like. If you see a car, right? Right? It got low mileage on it. It's top notch. The car normally would go for $60,000 off the showroom. Nobody's driven it yet. It got the leather seats. You can fall into it, right? And all of a sudden it's $30,000. You're like, what the fuck? Half off? Where is that at? You know what I'm saying? You mean to tell me you would have some questions? I'm not saying you wouldn't still drive it. Let me take it for a test drive real quick. You know what I'm saying? That's what niggas who are looking at these women are probably also thinking. It's not that they're necessarily something's wrong with them. They're probably having the same concerns about, well, damn, shorty, if you're all that in a bag of chips, why haven't you been snatched up already? And lastly, I'll give you another example, SNM. I'm sure there are probably people who look at you like, yo, I know she's snatched up. Why? Because they think you dope. They're not surprised if you tell them, yo, I'm married. You know what? That's right. I don't understand why y'all marry people who know y'all got shows and know, want to pretend like, come on, man, stop playing with. I would just stop there. But go ahead.
Let me address one of those. First and foremost, the first one is technically she was chosen. From my understanding, she was the one who called the engagements off, right? So apparently she did have opportunity. So twice she was engaged, and she was the one who stepped away from those engagements, which means that her choices aren't limited. Now they may have reached. There could have been reasons why she called them off, called off the engagements, but it shows that this was her choice. So her moving a certain way. Was she not engaged? Was she not engaged?
I'm going to tell you what. Go ahead.
Yes or no? Was she not engaged?
Go ahead.
Oh,
so
really?
she said, but go ahead.
So anyway,
there's no court records of her engagement, is there?
So supposedly, let's go ahead and put that in there. Supposedly then, she was engaged for twice. She called it off both times. And so that means she still had options. And she probably still have options. She's in a situationship for 5 years, right? So for her, this whole cooked and seasoned, you like a little kid over there about to come out.
Somebody might get cooked right now. Somebody's about to
I'm just saying that in her particular case, she has her own reasons for moving the way that she moved. In regards to the whole, if you're 35, the guy thing, only recently have women started asking that question in regards to, is it a red flag if a guy is over a certain age, usually 40, and they're not married or they don't have children or whatnot. It's only been recent that women started asking that. And so yes, in regards to red flags, but over 40 usually. She actually falls under that, being over 40 herself, but she's been engaged twice, and I guess folks give her a pass and extend her timeline.
I'm gonna say this, two things about the whole guy thing. Listen, I'm a guy, and if I know a guy who's 40 and he has a lot going for himself and he says he wanted marriage or whatever, he doesn't have it, I'm going to look at him with a side eye. This is not exclusive to just women. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Because to me, it doesn't fit the profile to a certain extent. Like there's just, if you look at the numbers, certain guys who college educated, make a certain amount of money, whatever, if they wanted and desire marriage, they typically would have already had it, right? So I'm not saying I'm gonna look at them crazy necessarily, but I'm going to have questions as to why a guy who could have what he wants has not yet gotten what he wants. It may not be that he can't get it, but it may be an internal thing that he has to work through. It could be mommy issues. It could be a litany of things, which brings me back to Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. When you talked about the whole, she got proposed to twice. The fact that she's in a 5-year situationship with the nigga who's probably knocking the dust off still, right? Which is literally probably opportunity costing her from me even finding the person that she really wants for real, tells me that the likelihood is she has a track record of picking niggas that she knows she's not going to be with. Right? If you intentionally pick a nigga that you know is either beneath you, not for you, too young for you, don't got enough money for you, but he got some good dick and you fucking with him or whatever, and he proposes to you, that's not a fucking flex. It's not a flex because you said no. You were always going to say no. He was never going to be that guy. The fact that you stayed in those relationships and knowing that and then cost yourself the time of being in a relationship with a guy you are worthy of, what she's not talking about is a lot of these women don't even feel worthy enough for the nigga they claim they want. Let me say that one more time in slow-mo. A lot of these women who claim they want a nigga don't even themselves feel worthy of them niggas, which is why they'll lay with niggas who are not up to par while saying that's what they want, while also costing them the opportunity to be with the nigga who's up to par. It's not that she didn't have the opportunities, that for herself, maybe she didn't believe she deserved it in the first place, right? That's the deep healing work that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant probably needs to do. Right? If she's able to diagnose people from afar, guess what? I can too. How in the fuck are you in? Excuse me, ma'am. Go ahead. What?
So I'm glad you added that caveat of diagnosing people from afar.
Yeah, that's what this is. This is the content space. This is what we do now. I'm saying there's enough credible evidence. If she's in the current situation that she's in with a guy that she knows is not going anywhere, probably because he's too young, right?
He's 9 years her junior.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, if you're spending time with someone, it could be twice a week, it could be once a week. That time that you're spending with that person, those phone conversations, and we know most decent women aren't finna fuck one nigga one night and fuck another nigga the next night, right? So you might have to have like a little layoff period before you start giving it up. So now when you meet the guy that you actually might like, now you got to be a little bit more skittish because you can't just move freely because you've already gave the nigga that you just fucking some of your pwn. You know what I'm saying? There's an opportunity cost for laying with niggas who ain't up to par. So what I'm saying is when you mention the whole she was proposed to twice, there is evidence to suggest that she's probably choosing niggas that she don't want to be with because guess what? That young boy right now is probably the nigga number 3 who proposed to her knowing that she would never be with him. So then she could come back on somebody's podcast and be like, well, I was engaged. I was proposed to 3 times. Stop it. Right? That's the truth. You know what I'm saying? And so lastly, I'll say what I think women do and people, and this is people in general, people will rationalize why they didn't get what they wanted instead of just owning it. I didn't get, and I think to her credit, she said, you know what? When I was 20s, I wouldn't have done this. When I was 30s, I wouldn't have done this. But the way she framed it, instead of just recognizing that, yo, I was young, dumb. I thought I was a shit. I thought I had enough time. And then guess what? Time caught up to me and I never didn't get what the fuck I wanted. And now I'm scrambling, which seems to be a lot of these attractive, smart, thoughtful women in the limelight who've never been married. And that's why I said, I think those women who are over 35 for the niggas that they want are cooked. You know what I'm saying? Bing! I think that's the oven. Let me go grab my oven mitt.
Before we move on, you got any final thoughts on that, Delvin?
Shout out to Nic for just doing the Lord's work for the Cheyenne Bryants of the world. I'm not talking about just your average run-of-the-mill, a woman over 35. They're fine. For the Cheyenne Bryants of the world, the hyper-accomplished, seasoned, high social status women, yeah, they're screwed. I stand on that.
Look, I'm just going to say before we go ahead and move to this next topic over here is that I just find this interesting because a lot of times when men are screaming that women are expired or they're cooked, they tend to be the same ones who bring in nothing but audacity to the table. No goals, no hygiene, no emotional availability, just vibes and PS5. Now, that may not be for the Dr. Cheyenne Bryant crew because as y'all mentioned, she's doing the Paul Pierce. She's in that Paul Pierce league, so to speak, of men. So that's excluding that. But overall, in general, and we had the audacity conversation, which y'all already disagreed with, when the gay guy stated that black
How
men
is
say
that
nothing but
fitness? How did you
audacity.
bring that into this conversation?
I'm just saying,
Audacity
I'm
of
just
you.
saying, I'm just saying, because I'm going to go through the overgeneralization, right? The generalization first. And then, but I excluded Dr. Cheyenne Bryant because you know what? You guys got a point. And I'm acknowledging that you guys got a point that for her and the people who are looking at her for the demographic, because of the choices that she may have found that she has a much more limited selection, because the people who she's looking for is those people in the Paul Pierce group who can go out and get the 25-year-olds or 2 or 3 of them if they wanted to. So I'm acknowledging that. For everybody else, though, I'm going to say you're not cooked, you're just seasoned. And speaking of doing something that you can't do or won't do, that brings us to our next topic, because apparently we have Maria Costello, and this is 2 high-profile exes, so just bear this in mind. I'm going to talk about Devon Franklin and Maria Costello, as well as Jonathan Majors and Megan Good. So, as you know, Megan Good is the ex of Devon Franklin. Devon Franklin is now engaged to Maria Costello. Maria Costello was recently on a pod, or she was caught making a statement that she will be proud to carry Devon Franklin kids. And Devon made a statement which kind of threw some shade at Megan and stated, da 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 da. Wow, I've never had anyone tell me that. And so, considering that Megan was his ex, it was like, wow, that was your wife. So she told she wasn't proud or she never wanted to have a kid. Doesn't matter, because at this point, Maria could and would, and she'll do it proudly. On the other side, Megan Good, as you know, is now with Jonathan Majors, and they recently just announced a new brand of fitness gear and mental health awareness. And they're going on elevating their platform, elevating their thought process, and basically very career focused. And so with that being said, it seems like this is proof that one person won't do, another person would. And so I would love to get your thoughts on this. Are these relationships revenge, rebound, or real? Because remember, at one point, especially with the Jonathan Majors one, we was like, suspect.
Go ahead, Devin. I feel like Devin still has some meat left on the bone, pause, in regards to the previous one. Did you want to go ahead and just finish it off, pause, and continue from there?
Oh no, we're good. We're good. I'll leave it. I think S&M conceded. I think the white flag went up.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I think the with Jonathan Majors and Megan Good, shout out to my baby mama. I'm hurt that she moved on so quickly from me. I think they genuinely like each other. They really seem to have a genuine relationship. Same thing with Devon Franklin and Maria. I'm a big believer in let's get people who are already doing the stuff that you want them to do. Don't negotiate if you can avoid it. Some of these things, like with the kids and life directions and goals, to me, it seems like some of these are conversations people should have before you say I do, not after. But we are where we are, so yeah, be with people who are already doing the thing that you want them to do, and you don't have to try to convince anybody or talk them into doing it. So shout out to them, and I hope they're getting what they look for. I don't see a revenge side to it. I mean, what say you?
Well, first, okay, I get how what Devon said could be seen as shade. And I could, if I wanted to be messy, I could kind of promulgate that or push that narrative. But the young lady could have just been so jubilant, right? Because she seemed like a younger woman, right? I think she might be 27 or something like that, right? Late 20s, who doesn't have a kid. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, she's also had a career. And so she found a man, that she was willing to prioritize in her life, and also chose to prioritize having a family with that man, and was exuberant about it. I don't think that was shade. I think that was genuine, right? What I also think was genuine, because this happens all the time. Like when you're entering a new relationship, especially in the early stages, you're talking about your past relationships, you're talking about your hurts. I gotta imagine that he had to have a conversation with her in regards to why his previous marriage didn't work out. And if at the heart of that was his desire for a family, and as a woman who loves him now and who is of childbearing years, I can see the enthusiasm, and she would say that. There's a lot of guys who've never heard those words like that, right? I want to have your baby like that. It's maybe sometimes in many relationships already kind of implied. Like we go together, we fucking, we're doing our thing. So there's, for a guy to say, I've never had a woman tell me that is not that strange. especially if he was only with that one woman in that type of way. If you're the person who had to be married first, so you only had one shot at it necessarily to be with someone. And we also don't know whether or not there were medical issues that probably also played a role in whether or not Shorty was ready to have a kid. Because I want to say, I remember early interviews with Megan Good where she kind of talked about, or at least it seemed that she was open to having a family. And as a person who understands fertility issues, right, sometimes those things can be very difficult for couples to overcome, right? And so I don't know that it wasn't, I don't know for sure, maybe somebody can correct me, that it wasn't that Megan didn't want to have a kid. It may have just been that there may have been challenges to it, or maybe, yeah, right? So I don't know, they didn't have that conversation early on. Sometimes people change their minds. Who knows, right? But I do know that watching him say that, it could have been very genuine when he said, I've never had a woman say that to me before. And now I have this woman who's excited about having my baby. And honestly, as a man, it's weird because even for me, I'm an older parent, right? I'm 47, I have my kid at 44. So there wasn't a part of me that felt like I needed to have a kid and something to validate me or even to validate our marriage. However, I will say though, that after having a kid, I'm glad I did. You know what I mean? Like both for the relationship between my wife and I, but also just in terms of myself and being a father. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes you go into a relationship and you're open to one thing and then you're open to something else and you realize, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, right? So people are allowed to change their minds in terms of what it is that they want. So again, we don't know specifically, but to his side, of Devon's side, I am happy as hell for him, right? If he genuinely found him a young lady who was going to put him on the pedestal that he deserves because he's a prize and give him the children that he deserves because he's probably been wanting some and he feel like he's done the things the right way and follow the Lord and all that. Maybe he has matter of fact, fellas, we can have our own Devon's prayer. Right? They got the Sierra's prayer. Apparently dreams do come true. This brother cashed in, traded in a Mega Good for a younger, ready model, right? That came with the car seat in the back, right? Kudos to Devon. I wish that brother well, okay? Now, on the other side of the ledger, I still don't believe it. I don't give a fuck. Just because they got a little workout gear together and they walking around and shit, they could just be extending the enterprise. You know what I'm saying? Listen, the contract could be up. Let's re-up. You know what I'm saying? Let's expand. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to some fashion line. Whatever, right? So I'm just being stubborn to my initial feels that this relationship may not be real, but I hope it is for her sake. And I hope it is for their sake, right? Because honestly, if you're asking me to compare, I really feel like homeboy genuinely found him something and I wished him well. I think what sucks though for her is that they're both in the industry. There's always these interior motives or whatnot that you never know. And on top of that, based on when their relationship kind of kicked off, he was kind of in the midst of certain things. And I still wonder if he really likes black girls like that. So my point is, listen, I wish but the best, right? Now, I mean, he was running from the white girl. Excuse me, that's what he was doing. Sorry. Let's look at his track record, Okay. Anyway, but the point I'm trying to make is, I just hope for her sake that she knows what she's doing because the brother is also younger. And God forbid that maybe he eventually or at some point wants kids. And if that is a deal breaker for him, that she may find herself repeating a breakup scenario again, right? I'm all for older women getting into their bag and dating younger men because as a younger man, I would date older women. But I'm just saying, it goes back to what we were talking about before. Women got to be very careful and very intentional, right? Just in period. And also when you're in that situation dealing with a younger person, there's a certain level of responsibility for you to have the level of maturity that the younger person may not have. So if that man can't tell you maybe he wants kids or whatever, you got to be able to intuit that if for no other reason than to protect yourself. You dig what I'm saying? So I get it. He might be saying all those things right now. And I hope that the relationship is real for their sake. Hey, who gives a fuck? I ain't fucking her. Shout out to the brother trying to holler though too. I like the way he's pulled up on her. Hey, listen, make it good. You know what I'm saying? Can I get your number? You know what I'm saying? And kudos to Jonathan Major for being cool in that moment, right? So, hey, both sides seem to have gotten what they wanted. But if I had to put my money on it, who I bet go in the distance, it would be the pastor. Who wants to take that bet? Anyone? Bueller?
I actually concur with you on the pastor, so I'm definitely not taking the bet. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm good. That's it. So, I mean, listen, okay. I wish them all the best, but I just kind of feel like he probably was very intentional, and I just hope that she was as intentional.
So I'm still going to go with, I felt like he threw a little shade when he said that I've never had anybody say that to me before. And especially considering that he had a wife previously. And this tells me that they did not have a discussion then about kids. And if they, or at least if she never said that, it makes me wonder if they ever had that discussion about kids. And then when it came up to the point where, hey, can we have kids? Should we have kids? Do I want kids? That could have been where the misalignment occurred. And that's why I think it's very important for couples when they're dating to understand what their goals are as far as relationship goals, if it's marriage and a carriage, or if it's career or whatever the case may be. Make sure that they're in alignment with the goals of each other, because that way they can build and support each other and both parties can walk away with what they want. In this particular case, I think that Devon, anyways, is getting what he wants. I want to say Delvin because Devon the Expert on here, but Devon Franklin. Anyways, he's getting what he wanted because he's always wanted a family. He wanted somebody who could devote their life to him and uplift as a traditional wife, so to speak. And so that's what he's getting in that case. Whereas Megan was focusing on her career. She really wanted to advance her career, and to the point where there were scenes that she had to agree to do or not do simply because she was married to a pastor. And that could also been some of the issues that they had as well, as far as the push and pull, because from my understanding, he didn't actually like that she was in having to have sex scenes, kiss scenes, or any of those type of scenes. It was one of those things where that could have been an issue as well. But if you know you're married to an actress and this may occur, then perhaps that wouldn't have been your choice. That shouldn't have been your choice. So to me, it was like a misalignment between Megan Good and the pastor. And whereas with Maria, there's no misalignment. In regards to Jonathan Majors and I will just say that from the start, I viewed this as a contract. And because I still did not understand certain elements of this, because the timing was coincidental. Now I'm not quite sure this is going to be one of those Urkel moments where he grew on Megan, where she's like, oh, now I do love him, even though I started off as a contract. Or maybe on his part, oh, I do love her, even though it started off as a contract. It could have been something like that. And yes, I am just guessing and alleging that it could have been a contract. But anyways, so I don't know, but either way it goes, their goals are in alignment. So even if it was a contract, their goals are aligned to be in that contract. And now that has exceeded to the next point, or proceeded to the next point, which is marriage for them, because they're engaged as well. Then, hey, apparently their goals align enough that they want to continue to move forward. And once again, the main push that I'm pushing here is that make sure you're in alignment with whoever your partner is, so that you can get where both you guys can get what you want. And if you're not in alignment, then maybe that's not the partner for you. Maybe it's time for you to look elsewhere and not waste your time, apparently like Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is doing in a 5-year situationship. And that guy's time too, apparently. So just think about that as you go through your life and figure out who you want to be with, what you're doing, how. In regards to Jonathan Majors, while my shade ain't the same shade as Nick's shade, sir, you still looking suspect out there. I ain't gonna lie. And it's gonna take a lot more to convince me. I'm kind of glad you came back to the hood, so to speak, but it's gonna take a lot more convincing on my part as well. However, I did like how you told old boy, go Google it, because he was disrespectful as hell, and you did it with a smile on your face. And I just got to acknowledge, I like crazy on you. So go ahead and stand 10 toes down for your woman. I appreciate that, sir. Whoop, whoop. Goals, alignment. That's where I'm going to land.
Okay, I want to shoot Devon Franklin some bail here, because you also intimated that they did not have that conversation. There was a video, an IG video in 2020, where they were jokingly talking about having kids, right? I think she was doing like a 30-day fitness challenge. She was rubbing her belly, and she was saying, hey, now, not pregnant yet, but I want to be fit when we finally have one, or whatever, right? So no, I don't think it was a matter of him not having the conversation. No, I'm saying, like, sometimes people be on some fuck shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, she married a fucking dude who was in the church like that. The fuck did she think he was going to be okay with, to a certain extent? Like, maybe you guys are right. They didn't have the conversation maybe as deeply, or maybe just as honestly as they needed to, because sometimes people do have the conversation and people be wanting a thing. They get pressured to wanting a thing. Okay, you know what? I'll be able to go ahead and conform or whatever. Then you get into it and you're like, nah. So don't act like it wasn't possible that he went into the marriage with expectations, because they did talk. I don't think he wavered necessarily, right? He doesn't come across to me as a guy who didn't always want kids, or didn't want a family, or didn't want to live a certain type of way. So if you ask me my humble opinion, I think a lot of it was that Shorty was the one that was kind of flip-flopping. It wasn't that they didn't communicate. I think she was flip-flopping. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, like, he was the one that filed, right? Like, I think, come on, man. So listen, I love me some Megan Good, and I want to try to, I'm not trying to throw any shade at her, but there are some times where these women, we were talking about women who never got married. There are some women who had the benefit of actually getting married and still came across a certain type of way. Maybe they should have never gotten married in the first place. Maybe Megan Good should have never been married to their brother in the first place. And I'm not going to be like, oh, he should have had.
Chose her.
Huh?
I would say maybe he shouldn't chose her since we're talking about accountability.
You're absolutely right? But what I'm saying is that if she misrepresented herself and presented herself as a person who she said she wanted a baby. What happened to the baby, ma'am? Right? Now, all of a sudden, she's in this new relationship, 42 now? With a 35-year-old nigga? Is she running towards this relationship because she feels like it's going to be her chance to have a baby that she should have been had? Listen, this doesn't apply to everybody. So every time I talk about a specific situation, I'm only calling it like I see it because at the end of the day, there's proof that she did talk about starting a family that never started. Then their relationship deteriorated. Then she's in this new relationship with a nigga a year later, right? Who maybe is fitting age or whatever. I'm just saying something smells a little off here is all I'm saying. And you agree to a certain extent. You get what I'm saying? But there's also something to be learned to your point, right? Know what you want. I'm just pushing back because when you made your statement, S&M, you made it seem like it was really about him not having the conversation. I didn't come out and say that necessarily, but I'm going to push back on you and say, nah, I think he did have the conversation, right?
I used to wear, maybe he didn't.
I'm saying I think he did have the conversation. It's clear to me there's evidence that there was some type of playful or otherwise conversation had, so we can wrap that up, right? Maybe about it. That conversation was had, at least playfully.
And the depth of it.
But what I'm saying, no, listen, you happily married and that's fine. But there's a lot of women out here who are getting in relationships and making promises for the sake of getting in relationships and reneging. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I feel like for him, he seems like a person who's been more consistent across the board in regards to what he wants out of life in marriage. There is a case that Shorty wasted 10 years of this nigga's life. And for y'all women who be so quick to be like, oh my God, he wasted all of my great years. Luckily, niggas can still have kids later in life. But that Shorty could have wasted that nigga's good 10 years. And God bless him for having a good attitude about it. You know what I'm saying? But y'all never see that.
Since we're going to go there on that route, let me just go ahead and put this plug in. So women, this tells you don't stay with a man who's wasting your time for 10 years because you may not have those same options as these men have so eloquently laid out. So if you're not getting the marriage that you wanted, then get the hell out the situation and don't spend your time getting your time wasted.
I completely agree.
Go ahead. You talk about marriage, that's them. I'm not telling people when they got their marriage, but go ahead.
No, I didn't say marriage. I said if marriage is what you wanted, don't spend your time being wasted by sitting in a situationship. Because these men so eloquently pointed out that you may be running out of time. So don't waste it.
Well, that's evolutionary biology saying that, not me.
I'm talking about the man was in a marriage and he clearly wanted a family.
No, I'm talking about, I understood what you're saying. I just added that statement because of the statement that you made to women in general. So you went from the specific situation and to women in general. Yeah. So I'm agreeing, don't waste people's time. I'm agreeing with the in general statement.
It ain't the same.
Men and women.
It ain't the same.
It is. Okay, so first of all, since you're saying that makes it even more critical for women to get the hell out the situation then.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you guys keep saying it's time sensitive, then it makes it more critical for women to get the hell out the situation.
Yeah, we've been saying, we say get out.
That's what I just said. I'm actually saying based on what you guys so eloquently waxed.
No, because I don't think y'all have the wherewithal sometimes to really discern whether to get into a relationship or even to get out of a relationship. So just because of the time standpoint, I'm not going to say that. Sorry.
Lord have mercy, Lord.
And look, real quick. I think as we talk through this, I think it's very unlikely that a pastor who wants to be married also does not want children. It's possible. I just think it's incredibly unlikely.
And she's going to pretend like that's not something that they talked about or whatever. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah. So like I was saying, see, even when I agree with y'all still got problems.
Yeah.
So are y'all hearing womanese apparently? Is there some madness that's occurring on here? Because even when I agree, there's still a problem. So I think you guys just want problems. That's what it sounds like.
No. What I was going to say, listen, You know what? Let's wrap the show up, man. We can get to
Facts on
our
facts on facts.
final
Let's
thoughts.
wrap this
I
up.
want to
Okay.
shoot us S&M some more, but I'm going to let you slide, sis.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
gonna let
do
you
this
slide.
Devon's prayer. You know,
Yeah.
nothing came before you back up. Go ahead.
No, that should be a thing for brothers who went through a bad first marriage. You prayed on it, and you got exactly what you wanted the second time around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, brothers who got finesse, got their time wasted,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's go ahead and end on Devon's prayer. There we go. Bam.
All right, so why don't we start with Delvin's prayer? Delvin, what's your final thoughts, man?
Hey, look, my final take. Listen, we're halfway through the year. We're halfway through the summer. I'm glad we've got everything going well on Carnival. Just because there are rules. Rules are not anti-Black. And shout out to the good Black people who are care about their image and just want to have a good time and enjoy the vacation. And the way you carry yourself in public, the way you represent yourself, it matters. So shout out to everybody for that, and be safe and have a good time. And that's what we're going to do on the BLC podcast. We're going to keep having a great time this summer, and we're going to be safe.
Absolutely. S&M.
Love it. Love it. So I'm just going to say this. Women, please be mindful of who you're with, because men representatives show up, as we well know that they show up as well. And the minute your goals do not align, please get out of that relationship, because we don't want to waste any more of your time, as we've already been told that time and time again over a certain age, you no longer matter, apparently. And while I am being slightly facetious on that, on the real, please, for relationship purposes, dead ass now, make sure you're in a relationship where your goals are aligned. Make sure you're with somebody who wants the exact, or at least willing to compromise on what you want, so that you two can move forward in a positive manner. And there's not have those conversations, so that there's not any disillusionment later on, or misgivings and so forth. So just make sure you pick somebody who wants to be with you and have similar goals and trajectory as you. And that's for men and women.
Life doesn't have to be so hard. If you want something, you work towards it. If you're not getting it, you ask why. And then maybe you figure out the reason, and then you change it or not. Or maybe you change what it is that you want. Sometimes life can be as simple as a math equation, but I feel like sometimes y'all be doing algebra, right? Because you want to avoid the simple equation of it all, right? If you want something and you work towards it and you're not getting it, chances are equals something's not adding up. The math, as we say these days, is not mathing. So when you see certain people where there's a lot of pluses, one has to wonder where the balance of the equation lies, because ultimately they're not getting what they said they wanted or that they prioritize. And then when you hear them talk, the more they talk, it becomes clear. And to point it out does not mean that Nic hates women. In fact, quite the opposite. Because I'm happily married, I want to see everybody be happy too. And it just pains me to see y'all get in your own fucking way. And so, yes, I come on this pod and I talk my talk because it's funny to me. Because some of y'all would have had what you wanted if you just would have applied yourself, or it changes what you wanted. See how easy that is? But with that being said, we want to give a quick shout out to Jay and the TMB. Hopefully they'll get better and be better wherever they are. We want to remind y'all, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. And the comment sections, man, stop playing. Y'all don't really want it. Y'all see how we giving it up, right? And of course, we got the virtual. That's right. We got new designs, new collections. You know what I'm saying? We got new photos. We got some new models on. Man, stop playing with them. You heard me? But with that being said, on behalf of Delvin the Expert, SNM Jones, I'm Nic Nice, a.k.a. Big Nic Energy. We'll see y'all next week. Until then, be easy.
We out.
Pew, 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 pew.